Welcome to Yury Experience, and today I want to talk to you about my fear of death. I think today's video will be quite a short video because I assume most of us know what I'm talking about. Fear of death or fear of dying, although these two things are not really the same, I will cover a small difference in a moment, but most of people don't want not to live because of various reasons, but overall most of us want to live, want to be in this world, exist in this world. And that is why the idea of not existing in this world is pretty scary for a lot of people, and I'm one of them. I don't have a lot of fears, like general fears that I carry with myself throughout my life. For example, I am scared of lions, I assume, but I'm not even A, sure about that, and B, that's not that some lions will find me on the streets in Germany. The probability of that is really low. But the probability of me dying is pretty high. If something can be objective in this world, then us dying, every person dying, at least in the current state of the world. Science, fantasy world and whatnot, there are other possibilities, but in our current world we all need to die, or we all will die. So let us talk about it for a little bit. But before we start, I have to tell you that this is Yury Experience, and here I share my various experiences about different topics, and I do 2 videos per week, Monday and Thursday, and I personally enjoy both of these videos. If you will enjoy this video, please drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. Let's go. First, let me clarify the difference between fear of death and fear of dying, because in my personal opinion, these two things are similar but different. Fear of death is fear of the state, is fear of being dead practically, or fear of not being alive. But fear of dying is fear of the process. So you don't want to go through this, you are afraid of the process, you are afraid of the unknown. Both of them are actually connected to that, but the process and the result is basically the difference. What are you actually afraid of? And to be honest with you, I think I'm more afraid of death. I'm not really afraid of dying because A, I'm pretty young, and if I will die nowadays, that will probably happen quickly. And I will die maybe painlessly, maybe with a lot of pain, but it will come to the end at some point. Maybe in the future the process will become scarier for me based on my different illnesses and diseases, but now, no, I'm not really afraid of dying as a process, but I'm afraid of death. I don't think I need to provide you the definition of death. In one or another way, most of people know what death is and what is connected with death, or have some idea or some belief what comes after death. Some people believe in some form of judgment in afterlife. So you die and then some beings judge you, and depending on their judgment you will go in a better place or in a worse place. Other people believe in reincarnation, so they will die and their soul will come back to this world in some other form. And depending on the ideology, that form will be different. And there are also people who just think we will just exist on a different plane of existence after our death. So we will leave this place and go to a different place, but not in the afterlife sense, so we'll stay there for eternity, but we will just move to another dimension. Basically, there are a lot of ideologies, and what do I believe in? I hope for a lot of them, but to be honest, you cannot know for sure. There is no evidence for any of these theories to be true. So at the end of the day, all of it is believing. If anything, I would hope, I think, for a different dimension stuff, like moving to a different dimension. But again, it's basically a belief. However, there is also a more practical way of thinking, but this way of thinking is also more scary. That is way of thinking of eternal sleep, for example, or people just ceasing to exist. So your body remains here for some period of time, but afterwards nothing of you remains in this world. Now I want to share with you 3 fears that in my head are connected to fear of death. Because fear of death is like, it's not really a fear that you can touch, it's not a fear that you can work with, but there are fears that are connected with death, that are connected with you not being alive. And the first one is fear of not achieving enough. I think most of us watch enough movies about various situations where a person comes to the end of the person's life and that person didn't achieve anything. That person like just existed throughout that person's life. And most of us saw that that's not the best way of living. Most of us looked at it and thought, I want to do it differently. I want to make it better in my life. And basically the fear of not achieving it, the fear of coming to the point that I'm dead and I didn't achieve anything or didn't achieve enough for my own like priorities or for my own targets, for my own goals, that's a real fear in my head. Like, it's nothing that I can really do a lot about except for working on it, but that's a thing, a worm in my head. Like, in some amount of years I will stay or will lie down for the last time and maybe not wake up. Will I be happy about that conclusion? If I will have an option to be happy or not happy about something. But that's a real thought in my head. Another second fear is fear of eternal sleep. I have more like rational thinking about death, and one of the ways how I sometimes think about dying or about death or about the state of death is similar as when I'm sleeping. When I'm sleeping, I don't really have control over my body. I don't really do anything. I basically just have dreams. And there's nothing that says anything against it, against having dreams after you died. Like, yes, you have no brain activity, but also a lot of brain activity is magic in terms of science. And to remain in that state of sleep, so you are not only in that state for some short period of time, but for continuous period of time, also including the fact how sometimes bad do I sleep, or how bad my dreams are, that's not a really nicest feeling to have. I cannot say that this is really a fear, like a fear, and also I basically cannot do anything about this fear. But again, it is something that I do have in my head. And the last fear that I think is the strongest of all of them is fear of not existing. Like, I'm not sure whether you thought of it, about it, but I sometimes think about it. So my way of living, my existence, me thinking, me being able to record something is a part of me existing in this world. But what if I stop existing? I will not have an ability to move myself anymore. I will not have an ability to think. I will not have an ability to share ideas. I will not be anymore. And I want to be honest with you. This fear of not existing anymore, fear of not being anymore in this world and maybe in any other world. So you just lived until your age and then you disappear from this world forever. That is scary. For me personally, it is a very scary thought. And I think exactly this idea is what's scaring people the most, is what making most of people fear, like creates fear for them. This idea of I will not exist in the world anymore. I just cease. I leave this world. Like my brain or the way I comprehend the world, the way I live the world just disappears. And that's crazy, but also scary. Also, I want to share with you what these fears motivate me to do. And these fears motivate me to be healthy, because the healthier I am, the highest probability that I will remain in this world for a longer period of time. It's not necessarily good for the world, but it is definitely something that is good for me. Other motivational stuff is enjoy your freaking everyday. Do your best to enjoy your time. Do your best to achieve something that you find important. every freaking day. And although it is difficult for me sometimes to concentrate myself on the good stuff, and sometimes I have worse days, sometimes I have better days, and also periods of life, but overall this idea that at some point I will not exist anymore helps me thinking, yeah, so like I have a choice of between not existing and doing better now, or like working towards lowering the amount of fear that I have, like creating the world or this mindset where I shift enough or I live through enough so I can just take death. I can just agree with ceasing to exist. Because I hope that that will come. I don't want to stay in this scared state for my whole life, especially knowing the fact that I cannot avoid it. I cannot avoid death. That's a scary stuff to talk about. Anyway, if you have something to share from your perspective about your ideas about death, please write them in the comments. You can also subscribe to the channel. You can also drop a like. I see you on Thursday. Have a great week.